I never imagined my own son would speak to me like that. Not Ryan. Not the boy who used to run to me with scraped knees and say, "Dad, fix it, you fix everything." Life changes fast. One day you're the hero, and the next, you're treated like something people wipe off their shoe. It was a quiet Thursday morning, the kind where the coffee tastes a little tired, and the sunlight comes in like it's too lazy to do its job. Ryan and his wife, Megan, had come over with their newborn daughter. I was excited in that embarrassing old man way. I'd even brushed my hair, what's left of it, which already says a lot. The baby was crying, loudly enough to scare the mailman outside. I reached out gently, hoping maybe she'd remember my voice from all the times I talked to her while Megan was pregnant. Babies don't remember anything, of course, but an old man can hope. And that's when it happened. Ryan stepped back, lifted his hand like he was protecting the baby from a wild animal, and said, "Dad, don't touch my baby, you make me feel sick." Not uncomfortable. Sick, like my hands were poison, like I was some stranger he'd met in a dark alley behind a supermarket. I froze. Not from anger, just shock. Megan didn't say a word. She looked at her shoes like they suddenly became very interesting. Something inside me cracked quietly, like old wood under pressure. Before I go deeper into this mess, if you're watching this, subscribe, hit the like button, and tell me in the comments how old you are and where you're from. For you, it's just a small thing. But for me, it's the reason I keep telling these stories. After that sentence, a cold silence settled inside me. I didn't fight. I didn't ask why. I just walked to the hallway, picked up my old jacket, the one with the stubborn zipper, and said, "All right, son, I hear you." He didn't follow me, didn't stop me, didn't ask where I was going. And maybe that silence hurt more than his words. By the end of that day, I already knew one thing. I wasn't staying in that house anymore. But just when I thought I'd heard the worst, something else happened, and it pushed me out even faster. I didn't leave immediately. Not because I wanted to stay, no. That part of me died the moment Ryan said I made him feel sick, but because an old man can't just storm out dramatically like in the movies. My knees crack, my back complains, and my shoes untie themselves out of pure spite. Even my exit wanted to embarrass me. I sat on the edge of the guest bed, staring at the ugly floral curtains Megan bought years ago. I always hated those curtains. They looked like somebody printed a garden on a cheap tablecloth. But that morning, I stared at them like they were going to give me answers. Spoiler. They didn't. I was packing a few things into my old duffel bag socks. A photo of my late wife. My inhaler that never works when I actually need it when I heard voices in the kitchen. Not arguing. Worse. Whispering. People whisper only when something ugly is being said. Megan's voice came first. Soft. Nervous. "Ryan, maybe you were too harsh." My heart almost jumped. Maybe there was a chance he'd realize, "No," Ryan cut in. "I don't want him touching her. I don't want him holding her. He's old, and he smells like those old garages people keep tools in." I had to put a hand over my mouth to stop myself from laughing. Old garages? Tools? What kind of insult was that? At least call me something fancy like vintage. But the laughter didn't stay. It slipped into something heavier. Then Megan added, "He just wants to help. He's her grandfather." And Ryan replied, cold as ice, "He used to be. Used to be." Past tense. Like I'd already died and nobody told me. I stood there in the hallway, clutching my half-zipped duffel bag, feeling something I hadn't felt in decades: shame. The kind that crawls up your spine and settles behind your eyes, making everything blurry. That's when the dog, their ridiculous miniature poodle named Captain, walked up to me. He looked at me, barked once, and then lifted his leg on my shoe. I swear he did it on purpose. "Perfect," I whispered. "Even the dog's voting me out." So that was it. I wasn't waiting for another insult. I wasn't waiting for Ryan to come apologize because he wouldn't. I walked out the front door quietly, letting it close behind me with the softest click. But I had barely taken 10 steps down the driveway when someone called my name, and what they told me changed everything. I turned around slowly, half expecting Ryan to be standing there ready to say something halfway human. But no, of course not. Life isn't a Hallmark movie. Instead, I saw my neighbor, Harold, waddling across the lawn like a determined penguin with a mission. Now, Harold is 78, hard of hearing, and somehow always angry at clouds, but he's got a heart somewhere under all that grumbling. He waved his arms like he was trying to land a plane. Hold up! Hold up! He shouted, which probably woke up 3 blocks. I sighed. Last thing I needed was small talk. But Harold finally reached me, sweating like he'd just run a marathon in a winter coat. You leaving? He puffed out. Looks like it, I said. He nodded like this was perfectly normal, and then leaned closer. Good. I was wondering when you'd finally stop letting that boy treat you like a worn-out lawn chair. I blinked. Harold, you're not helping. He ignored me completely. I heard what he said. Thin walls. You raised that kid, and now he tells you make him feel sick? My daughter screams at me that I chew too loud, but at least she invites me for dinner. I sighed, rubbing my forehead. Harold, he held up a finger. No, listen. Before you go wandering off like some dramatic cowboy, you should know something. That got my attention. Harold wasn't the type to gossip, mostly because he forgot gossip 5 seconds after hearing it. But this time, he lowered his voice. I saw Ryan last month, at the pharmacy. He wasn't buying baby stuff. He was buying something else. He tapped his temple. Something for stress. Something heavy. I frowned. And, Harold continued, I mentioned you because I'm an idiot, and he got weird. Said he's done trying. Said he can't deal with you and Megan keeps pushing him. They've been fighting. A lot. I felt the breath leave my chest for a second. Ryan didn't tell me any of that. But Harold wasn't finished. And the kicker? He said you don't need to know anything because, and I quote, soon we won't have to deal with him living here anyway. That one hit harder than the first insult. Not because it was cruel, but because it sounded like a plan, a decision, something they'd discussed. I looked at my duffel bag on the ground. My whole life suddenly felt small enough to fit inside it. Harold patted my shoulder with a hand that shook more than usual. You deserve better than this circus. I nodded slowly. For the first time since morning, something warm slid through my chest. Not anger, not pride, but clarity. I picked up my bag, but as I stepped off the curb, something else happened. A car pulled up. The window rolled down, and the person inside said something that made my heart drop straight into my shoes, because apparently Ryan wasn't done with the surprises. The car rolled to a stop right beside me, a gray Toyota with one hubcap missing and a bumper sticker that said, Proud to be tired! I already had a bad feeling, because nothing good ever comes from a car that looks this stressed. The window came down, and there she was, Megan. Hair messy, eyes puffy, baby seat in the back, and that panicked, please don't yell at me, expression she always wore when Ryan messed up. She leaned toward me like the window might bite her if she got too close. Tom, wait, she said. Her voice was trembling so much the words came out like they were balancing on a tightrope. I crossed my arms. Did Ryan send you to tell me I make the car sick, too? She flinched so hard I almost apologized. Almost. No, she whispered. He doesn't know I'm here. I saw you leaving, and I couldn't let you go without explaining. Explaining? People don't explain things unless they've done something wrong. And Megan had the look of someone carrying a secret so heavy it was flattening her spine. Get in, she said quietly. Please. I hesitated. Then Harold shouted from behind me, If she kidnaps you, call me! Which wasn't helpful, but it did lighten the mood. I got into the passenger seat, the door creaking like it was judging both of us. Megan didn't start driving. She just gripped the steering wheel like she wanted to strangle it. Tom, what Ryan said today wasn't about you. Oh, so he tells everyone they make him sick? I said. That must be fun at parties. No, she whispered. It's worse. He's not well. That froze me more than anything Ryan had said. She continued, voice shaking. He's been having breakdowns, panic attacks, mood swings. He won't talk to anyone, and he won't admit it. When the baby cries, he thinks he's failing. When you try to help, he thinks you're judging him. He's terrified to be a father, terrified he'll be like his own dad. I blinked. I am his dad. I meant his biological father, she said softly. You know, before you adopted him. I felt my fingers go numb around the duffel bag on my lap. Memories I never wanted to revisit came flooding back. Ryan at 6 years old. Bruises he couldn't explain, the way he used to flinch when someone raised their voice. And suddenly, the insult, the cruelty felt different. Not smaller, but tangled, messy, human. Still, it didn't erase what he said. Megan looked at me with tears gathering in her eyes. He doesn't mean it, Tom. He doesn't hate you. He's overwhelmed and scared and ashamed. He needs you, but he doesn't know how to say it without hurting you. I leaned back in the seat. My heart didn't know whether to break or soften. Then Megan added, voice barely a breath, and there's something else, something he didn't want you to know. I closed my eyes. Of course there is. She swallowed hard. He's been talking about sending you to a care facility, not because he doesn't want you, but because he thinks he's failing you too. I stared at her. 1,000 emotions tangled in my throat. But before I could speak, Megan's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, and her face drained of color. Oh no. Tom, you need to come with me right now. Something's happening at the house. She turned the key. The engine groaned awake, and we sped back toward the place I had just walked away from. Because whatever was happening, it wasn't just about hurt feelings anymore. We drove so fast my dentures almost filed for divorce. Megan gripped the wheel like she was competing in some unofficial, terrified mom Grand Prix. And every bump on the road made the baby in the back gurgle like she was enjoying the chaos more than both of us combined. What happened? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Megan's eyes flicked between the road and her phone. Ryan texted me. He said he can't do this, and that he's sorry for everything. Tom, when he says things like that, it's bad. My chest tightened. Not because he hurt me earlier, but because I recognized that kind of message. The kind people send when they're standing on the edge, literally or emotionally. Did he say where he is? I asked. No. But he's not at the house. The neighbor's camera showed him leaving. He took the stroller, but not the baby. The stroller, but not the baby? I repeated. What? Does he plan to push his regrets around the block? She didn't laugh. That told me just how serious this was. When we pulled into the driveway, the neighbor, a very wide man named Douglas, who exclusively wears Hawaiian shirts no matter the season, came jogging over, holding a tablet. Jogging might be generous. It was more like fast wobbling. Got footage, he said, breathing heavily. Your guy ran out like he was chased by a chainsaw. Didn't look okay. Megan took the tablet, and we watched the short clip. Ryan stepping outside, pacing, gripping the empty stroller handles like they were going to stop him from falling apart. Then he stormed down the street, almost tripping over Harold's lawn flamingo. Twice. I exhaled. Where would he go? Megan didn't answer. She was too busy shaking. Then the baby began to cry, and something inside me clicked into place. A memory. A habit Ryan had since he was a teenager. I turned slowly toward Megan. I know where he went. Where? She whispered. The old marina, I said. He always goes there when he feels like the world's too loud. Megan immediately handed me the car keys. Go, please. He listens to you more than he admits. I'm not sure that's true, I muttered. But I still got in the driver's seat. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw Douglas waving both hands at me, maybe encouragement, maybe trying to tell me my car door wasn't fully shut. I couldn't hear him over the engine and my own heartbeat. The road to the marina felt longer than I remembered. Gray sky, cold wind, that uneasy silence before a storm. And then, near the water, I finally saw him. Ryan, standing alone at the edge of the pier, hands on the stroller handle, shoulders shaking. Not anger, not drama. Crying. My son, the man who told me I made him feel sick, was crying like a boy who didn't know how to hold his own life together. I got out of the car quietly. Step by step, slow, careful, like approaching a wounded animal. But when he finally noticed me, he didn't yell, he didn't run. He just whispered, broken, Dad, I don't know how to be anything. Not a father, not a husband, not your son. Everything I touch, I ruin. My heart, Well, it didn't break. It simply opened again. But before I could speak, Ryan took one step back too close to the edge and slipped. And in that split second, everything changed. The moment Ryan slipped, my whole body moved on instincts I didn't even know I still had. For a man whose knees sound like popping bubble wrap every morning, I ran faster than I had in 20 years. The stroller rolled backward, hitting my shin, which, for the record, hurt like old man lightning, but I didn't stop. I caught Ryan's wrist just as his foot skidded off the wet wood of the pier. "Ryan!" I shouted. He grabbed onto me with both hands, fingers digging into my jacket like I was the last piece of solid ground left in his life. Dad, I didn't mean I didn't," he stuttered, shaking so hard I thought we'd both go over. "I know," I said, through clenched teeth, pulling with everything I had. "But I swear, if you drag me into this water, I'll haunt you until you're 90. That got a tiny, broken laugh out of him, more like a hiccup, but still a laugh. Then I managed to pull him up onto the pier, and the two of us collapsed like a pair of exhausted seals. He covered his face with his hands, breathing fast and uneven. I put a hand on his shoulder, half comforting, half trying to see if his bones were still intact. Seconds passed, then a minute. Then Ryan whispered, voice thin as paper. "I'm sorry. I'm really, really sorry. I didn't mean what I said earlier. Any of it." I exhaled. "Son, if I got offended every time someone said something stupid while panicking, I'd be mad at myself half my life." He let out a shaky breath and wiped his eyes. I feel like I'm drowning. Everyone expects me to be strong, to know what I'm doing, to be some perfect dad. But when the baby cries, I feel useless. When Megan asks me something, I feel stupid. And when you're around..." He stopped, hesitating. I raised a brow. "When I'm around what?" He looked at the ground. "I feel like I can't live up to you. You're calm. You know things. You don't fall apart every 5 minutes." I snorted. "Kid, you should have seen me in the 80 seconds. I fell apart so often I should have charged admission." A hint of a smile broke through his tears. I nudged him with my elbow. "Look, Ryan, being a father doesn't mean being perfect. It just means showing up. Even when you're terrified. Even when you feel like an idiot. Especially then." He looked at me with this raw, painful honesty, a kind I hadn't seen in years. "That's why I pushed you away," he whispered. "I didn't want you to see how badly I'm failing." I sighed, long and tired. "Son, you've got a newborn. Everyone fails, even the good ones. Especially the good ones. The bad ones don't care enough to panic." He nodded, swallowing hard. Then, from behind us, a loud honk echoed. We both turned to see Harold in his ancient pickup truck, leaning halfway out the window. "You two done having your emotional moment?" he yelled. "Because it's cold and I gotta pee." Ryan actually laughed. A real laugh this time, tired but genuine. I stood up slowly, brushing off my jacket. "Come on," I said. "Let's get you home before Harold wets the entire marina." Ryan hesitated. "Dad, can you stay? At the house? Just not leave?" I looked at him for a long moment. He looked so young suddenly, so lost, so much like the little boy who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. "I'll stay," I said. "But there's something we need to talk about first." His eyebrows knitted. "What?" I stepped closer, lowered my voice. "Megan told me about the care facility, and son, we're going to have a very honest conversation about that." Ryan's expression froze, then paled. Because he didn't know I knew, and he definitely wasn't ready for what I was about to say next. Ryan looked like a kid caught stealing cookies, except instead of cookies, it was a whole care facility plan with my name written on it in permanent marker. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, like a goldfish having an existential crisis. Dad, I swear it's not what you think," he stammered. "Oh, good," I said, "because what I think is that my son planned to ship me off like a malfunctioning refrigerator." He winced so hard, I almost felt bad. Almost. "I wasn't trying to get rid of you," he said quickly. I panicked. You were doing everything better than me. Holding the baby better. Staying calm better. Existing better. And I felt like maybe you'd be happier somewhere, with people who actually know what they're doing." I blinked at him. Ryan, you wanted to send me to professionals because I held a baby politely? I know it sounds stupid, he groaned. I was scared you'd see how useless I am, that you'd be disappointed. And then that turned into this idea. A terrible one. I know that now. I let out a long breath, rubbing my temples. Son, listen carefully. I've survived tax season for 40 years. I've survived the time you melted a plastic bowl in the microwave because you wanted to heat cereal like soup. I've survived your teenage band practicing in my garage. I can survive your feelings. He gave a small, embarrassed smile. Okay, that microwave thing was 13 years ago. And I still smell the plastic, I said. Sit down. We sat on the pier together, feet dangling above the water. A quiet moment passed. Not heavy this time. Just human. Ryan, I said softly. You don't need to be perfect for me to be proud of you. You just need to be here. Trying. That's all. His shoulders loosened, like for the first time in months, maybe years. I don't want you in a facility, he whispered. I want you home. I nodded. Good. Because the only facility I'm going to at my age is a buffet. He laughed, wiping his eyes with his sleeve. Then, from behind us, Harold yelled from his truck again. I'm serious. I'm going to pee on this pyre if you two don't get moving. And with that touching threat, we stood up. But before we walked back to the car, Ryan stopped me. Dad, there's something else I need to tell you. Something I didn't want anyone to know. I turned to him, expecting another panic confession. But instead, he took a deep breath and said, I've been going to therapy, secretly, for months. And the last thing my therapist said was that I need to fix things with you before I lose you completely. I stared at him. Of all the things he could have said, this wasn't the one I expected. But he wasn't done yet. And Dad, I think I'm ready to tell you why I've been going. His eyes lifted, moist, exposed, determined. It's about my childhood. Before you. Something I never told you. My heart tightened, because I knew whatever he was about to say next was going to hit harder than everything before it. Ryan sat back down on the edge of the pier, but this time it wasn't because he was falling apart. It was because the weight of what he was about to say pressed him down like an anchor. And I lowered myself beside him with the grace of a folding chair giving up on life. The wind picked up, carrying that faint marina smell of salt water, engine oil, and whatever died under the dock last summer. Perfect atmosphere for father-son trauma bonding. Ryan's hands were shaking slightly. Not the panic tremor from before. This was different. This was memory trembling its way out. Dad, he started quietly, when I was little, before you, I used to hide in a closet. A lot. I already felt my throat close. I remember, he said, voice thin. He'd get angry for nothing. A dropped toy, a spilled drink, breathing too loud, and every time he got mad, he'd grab me by the shirt and throw me in there. Told me I should stay where nobody has to look at me. My stomach twisted. I knew his biological father was cruel, but I never knew the details. Some details kids don't share. They bury them. Ryan continued. I guess when the baby cries now, my brain goes right back there. I feel like I'm failing. Like I don't deserve to hold her. Like she'll cry because of me. I listened. Quiet. Still. Heartbreaking in a slow, controlled way only fathers know. And when you're around, he whispered, the part of me that still feels like that scared kid thinks you're judging me the way he did. I know it's not true, but the feeling... He snapped his fingers. It hits before my brain has time to remind me I'm grown. He paused. Silent tears rolled down, but he didn't wipe them. He just let them fall, maybe for the first time. I put a hand on his shoulder, gently. Ryan, I never wanted you to feel that way. Not for a second. I know, he said. That's why it feels worse when I mess up. You gave me a home, a childhood, safety. I don't want you to see me turning into him. I shook my head. Son, listen to me carefully. You are nothing like that man. You're scared, yes. Overwhelmed, sure. But you know the greatest sign that you're a good father? He looked at me, eyes swollen. You're terrified of failing, I said. Bad fathers aren't terrified. They don't care enough to be. He let out a shaky breath. Relief flickered across his face like the sun peeking through storm clouds. Then a seagull landed nearby and screamed directly at us. Ryan wiped his eyes. Even the birds are judging me! No! I said. This one just looks like Harold. Ignore it. He laughed a real, chest-deep laugh that made the moment less heavy, more human. After a while, he stood up, brushing off his jeans. Dad, he said quietly, can you come home with me? Not as someone I need to take care of, but as someone I need to learn from. I don't want to do this without you. My heart warmed, old but steady. But before I could answer, Ryan's phone buzzed. He read the message. His eyebrows went up. Then he turned to me with a look halfway between worry and disbelief. It's Megan, he said. She says there's someone at the house waiting for us. Someone who needs to talk to you immediately. I frowned. At the house? Who? Ryan swallowed. Dad? She says it's a man claiming he used to know you. And that you're the reason Ryan was adopted. I felt the air leave my lungs. Because there was only one person that could be. And if he was back, everything we thought we'd left in the past was about to return. The drive back from the marina felt like moving through a memory I didn't want to revisit. Ryan kept glancing at me, waiting for some kind of explanation, but even I wasn't sure I had one. Some ghosts? You think you bury them deep? Then one day they show up at your front door asking for coffee. When we pulled into the driveway, Megan was standing outside holding the baby, shifting nervously from foot to foot. The moment she saw us, her shoulders sagged with relief, but her eyes flicked toward the front door, with this tight, uneasy look that told me she was wishing she'd just pretended nobody was home. Then the door opened, and he stepped out. A man I hadn't seen in almost 30 years. Gray beard now, heavier, slower, but still carrying that same unsettling confidence. The kind of man who always walked like he owned whatever ground he stood on. Frank, Ryan's biological father. My palms instantly went cold. Ryan's eyes widened. Dad, is that? I nodded once. Yeah, that's him. Frank walked toward us with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. The kind of smile cats have before knocking something valuable off a shelf. Well, he said, voice rough as gravel. Look at you, Tom. Still breathing. Didn't expect that, Ryan whispered. Mom said he left the state. Said he wanted nothing to do with me. Frank snorted. Your mother lied about a lot of things. Ryan stepped behind me without realizing it. Some habits never die. I straightened my back despite every bone protesting. Frank, what do you want? He shrugged. Closure, and maybe a thank you. A thank you, I repeated. Sure, he said casually. For raising my son for me. Saved me a lot of trouble. Ryan stiffened like he'd been punched. I felt fire rise inside me, slow, controlled, but hot enough to burn through steel. Megan whispered, He showed up an hour ago. Said he needs to talk to you both. Said he has something you deserve to know. Frank put his hands in his pockets and rocked back on his heels. You always thought you were the hero, Tom. The savior. But the truth is, I didn't sign those adoption papers because I wanted what was best for the kid. I clenched my jaw. Of course he didn't. He never did anything for the right reason. Ryan's voice cracked. Then why did you sign them? Frank smirked. Because your mother said you'd never turn out like me if he raised you. And I wanted to prove her wrong. Silence. Heavy. Ugly. Like a storm settling in everyone's lungs. Ryan took a step forward, fists trembling. So I was some kind of bet to you, Frank shrugged. Call it what you want. Something inside Ryan broke all over again. I saw it happen, like a glass shattering in slow motion. But before he could explode, I stepped between them. Frank, I said calmly, you've said enough. Leave. He waved a hand. Relax, Tom. I'm not here to ruin anything. I'm here to tell the boy the truth. Ryan's voice was barely a whisper. What truth? Frank reached into his jacket pocket, and for a second, everyone froze, but he pulled out nothing but a folded, stained envelope. He held it out to Ryan. Your mother wanted you to have this someday. She gave it to me before she passed. I never cared about what was inside. Until recently. Ryan stared at the envelope like it might burst into flames. I watched Frank's face closely. Something was off. Too casual. Too smooth. Go on, Frank said. Open it. Ryan's hands shook as he unfolded the paper inside. His eyes scanned it once, twice. Then he looked at me, completely pale. Dad, it's about you. My chest tightened. What does it say? He swallowed hard. It says, she wasn't scared of Frank. She wasn't scared of losing me. She was scared because… He looked straight at me, voice trembling. Because you told her she should let you adopt me before Frank hurt me again. You protected me long before I ever knew. I stared at him, at the letter, at the truth unraveling, after decades. Frank scoffed. Yeah, the hero steps in. Touching. But the woman still picked me first. Not at the end, Megan said suddenly, voice sharp. She trusted Tom with her son. Not you. For once, Frank didn't have a comeback. He just looked old, and small, and irrelevant. He shoved his hands back into his pockets. Well, now the kid knows everything. I'm done here. He turned and started walking toward his truck. Ryan looked at me, eyes full of something I hadn't seen in years. Clarity, understanding, love. Dad, I didn't know. I didn't know any of this. I exhaled slowly. It wasn't your burden to carry. Ryan took a shaky breath, then stepped forward, hugging me tight, tighter than he had since he was a boy. But the moment was cut short when a familiar voice shouted from across the yard. Is anyone going to invite me to dinner, or am I just standing here for decoration? Harold, again. With a casserole dish the size of Texas. Ryan laughed through his tears. Megan sighed with relief. Even the baby gurgled like she approved. But I knew the real ending wasn't the hug. It was what I had to say next, a truth I'd been holding for years. And in the final chapter, I would finally say it. Frank's truck pulled away with that familiar rattling sound, like loose bolts and bad decisions clinking together, and for the first time in years, the air around us felt clean. Not peaceful, yet, but clean. Like a storm had passed, and left everything raw, damp, and honest. Ryan was still standing beside me, holding that letter like it was a piece of his own heart he'd just discovered. Megan shifted the baby in her arms, watching us with soft eyes. Even Harold lingered at the edge of the lawn, pretending he wasn't eavesdropping while eating half his casserole straight from the dish. I looked at my son, my boy, and finally said the thing I'd carried like a brick in my chest for decades. Ryan, I never told you what your mother asked me the last time I saw her. He swallowed. What? What did she say? I took a breath, a long, steady one. She said, Tom, don't save me. Just save him. And I promised her I would. Every day. As long as I live. Ryan's eyes filled instantly. Not with sadness, with something deeper. Recognition. Understanding. Gratitude that didn't need words. I thought adopting you would fix everything, I continued. But the truth is, you fixed me just as much. You gave me a purpose when I had none. A reason to get up every morning. A reason to keep going even when the world felt too heavy. His chin trembled. Dad, I'm sorry for today. For what I said. For all of it. I shook my head gently. No, son. Today wasn't your worst day. Today was the day everything finally came out. And that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to build from. He stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. Can you forgive me? I placed my hand on the back of his neck the way I used to when he was 10 and scared of thunder. I forgave you before you even said it, I said. Because forgiveness isn't for perfect children. It's for real ones. A tear rolled down his cheek. He didn't hide it, didn't apologize for it, just let it fall. And then the baby, sweet little Emma reached out from Megan's arms, tiny fingers opening and closing, reaching directly toward me. Everyone froze. Ryan looked at Megan, then at me. Then he nodded, slow and certain. Dad, he said softly, will you hold her? My breath caught. He stepped forward, placing his daughter into my arms carefully, lovingly as if he were repairing something precious that had cracked earlier that day. The warmth of her small body pressed against my chest. Her little face scrunched, then relaxed. No crying, no fear, just Trust, Ryan whispered. You're her grandfather. Not used to be, not almost. You are. And I want her to know you the way I do. I looked at him. At all of them. My family. Flawed, messy, loud, imperfect but mine. Harold wiped his eyes dramatically. Oh, great. Now I'm crying. This was supposed to be a normal day. Everyone laughed through the tears. Even me. We walked inside together slowly, calmly, like a family that had finally learned how to breathe again. No anger left. No past haunting us. No care facility forms hiding in drawers. Just truth. And love that had been waiting for years to surface. And that's the lesson I want to leave you with. Sometimes the people you love don't hurt you because they don't love you. They hurt you because they don't know how to love themselves. And healing doesn't come from walking away. It comes from walking back together. Because family isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other even on the days when choosing is hard.